testing, because all of this is great, but it's all supposition until we experiment and we test. Now, academically, they've done some great tests, but those are what we call tests with low ecological validity. They're not real-life tests. They're students sitting in a lab, filling out questionnaires. Okay, admittedly, me driving into Luton Airport was ecologically valid, but I'm one person, so that doesn't really prove a hypothesis. However, with my company, I work for a company called Sodexo. We own a Thames dinner cruise company, Bateau London, down on Victoria Embankment. And it's e-commerce trading. It's a great little revenue earner. Pulls in about 1.2 million a year online. So it's a great hotbed. It's a great case study. Gives us statistically significant results because we've got a lot of people coming on there, got a lot of spending going on there. And I had an opportunity because we were asked to put up live a new package, a new premium package that came with the nicest champagne. So this was creating an artificial anchor, a decoy, potentially for our customers online. And we had some hypotheses based on this, and we're going to test it because we'd like to test because that's what we do. So the inclusion of a premium priced product on an e-commerce website, in this case batowlondon.com, will create an artificial anchor resulting in an increase in average spend per transaction, because that's the metric we were looking at, that was the KPI, spend per transaction, on other comparable products. But there was another hypothesis, because this anchor product that we launched was a dinner cruise, but they also do lunch cruises and tea cruises. They're completely different packages, completely different market, different price points. You wouldn't associate them at different times of the day, obviously, lunch, dinner, tea. But based on the Tversky and Kahneman Wheel of Fortune experiment, we hypothesized that potentially, by including this premium priced product and making sure that they saw it in the purchase and the customer journey online, they might actually spend more money on lunch cruises and tea cruises. Which doesn't seem to make much sense, but we've seen some evidence suggesting that that might be the case. So there we go, Platinum Dinner Cruise on Symphony. It's a beautiful package. We had to try and ensure there's a £155 per person price point, so it's not cheap. Great quality phone, great champagne, so I do recommend it. So we had to go through the customer journey. We have to say, okay, how can we maximize exposure to this product? So we rigged it. So people generally, when you go through the booking calendars, look at dates, they would select whether they wanted to see lunch cruises, tea cruises, dinner cruises. We hid that. So they had to be exposed to all the products. And they've got a dinner cruise, so they can look at pure dinner cruise packages. If they went straight to lunch cruises as a navigation or afternoon tea, we excluded them from the experiment. They didn't count. But generally, I'd probably say about 2/3 of visitors to the site were exposed to the anchor. Did it work? Of course it did, because I'm standing here talking to you about it. Now, we saw an average increase in 11% on dinner packages. And that's great. And that's once we've factored out the actual spend on the premium package, on the anchor product. So this is just 11% on the packages that were on there. Generally, we've seen an increase. Dinner cruises. What's really exciting is we saw a 26% increase in lunch cruises and tea cruises, which shouldn't happen, rationally doesn't make sense, but when we think about cognitive heuristics and we think about how people actually react in real life rather than on paper and experiments, that's how what happened. 26% increase, which is a huge increase for us. Now, with every plus comes a negative. With every con comes a pro. Now, can anyone see this? Because I'm thinking it's a little bit small. I will read it out to you. Has anyone seen the oatmeal? Yeah? I imagine 90% in it. I'll just go through it just in case you haven't. So, chap's coming to the box office and he's spending $13 on Brokeback Mountain 3D. Then he spends another $20 on popcorn and soda. Goes to Starbucks Coffee. And he buys a Ventoli Soy Whip Fappoladi Latticino, $7.15, and puts a little bit of syrup in there as well, another 70 cents. Goes, buys an iPad 3GS with protective case, it's pretty much $900 off the shelf. He'll have two, it's a bargain. And then he buys an iPhone 4, it's $425. Spending an absolute bloody fortune, this man. But when he goes to the App Store, and he gets asked to spend 99 cents on an app, and he blanches at that. And we've all done it. 99, £3.20? Ooh, I don't know. It's an entire office suite. And I'm still thinking £6.40, that's a lot of money, you know? And this is what happens when you negative anchor. Now, Apple very much did this deliberately. They wanted the association that the App Store was basically a all-you-can-eat buffet. Walk in there and help yourself to anything for free. Of course, app developers think otherwise. So now we've got this situation where you've got two markets, two suppliers, kind of conflicting against each other, which fortunately app developers are fairly canny people, and they've worked out this thing called in-app purchases. So they've got around this now by charging you incrementally over the month or subscription models. So, you know, best of both worlds, everyone's happy except mums who have just paid a £500 app bill for their child going online. Another negative example is the McDonald's cappuccino coffee trial back in the 1990s in the States. Now, I'm assuming everyone has heard about this. A lady bought hot coffee, spilt it on her lap, sued McDonald's for something like £2 million. It was you? You did it? It was. I've actually got it. Hang on. I've got the actual. Yeah, it was a large amount of money. That's why it says but coffee is very hot. What slide are we on? We're near the end. God, there's a lot of notes here. Prosecution asked for damages of $3 million. Jury awarded punitive damages of $2.7 million. Now, in the end, she only got about $600,000. After all the lawyers, yeah. She was lucky to get that, to be honest. But obviously, this is the first time when a lawyer went in there with the anchoring principle and said, okay, I'm going to ask something ridiculously high, and I'm going to see if the jury work their way down from there. Unfortunately, this has become standard practice now, which is all well and good when it's taking McDonald's to court, and you know they've got lots of money, so we can pretty much cope. But when you're talking about life sentences, you know, someone asks for, I don't know, 10 consecutive life sentences for a crime, asks for 50 years, the jury will still be doing the same thing, working their way down from that original anchor, which gets very dangerous because anchoring is being used to manipulate and change people's lives. So this isn't my final thought, because there's a little bit more we've got on to, but this is my first final thought. So, how much for a unicorn? Give me bids. Go. So look at it, seriously. It farts rainbows and Skittles. It's amazing. Go on. Hands up. Who's going to give me £10? I'll give you 100,000. 100,000. Thank you. Simon, good man. Anybody else? $100 million. Bit of logic behind this. Obviously, nobody knows what the value of a unicorn is. I could say, okay, I'll give you a unicorn for £5. How's that? Yeah? Yeah? Deal? No, it's £5, man. Come on. You're never going to get a unicorn cheaper than that. But when we actually set an anchor price, when we put a price out there, that becomes the anchor. So nobody knows what a unicorn's worth. So if I say a unicorn's worth £5, that's setting an original anchor. If I say it's worth 100 million, that's the new anchor for that product. There's a great example of black Tahitian pearls. So when black Tahitian pearls were originally released back in the 1940s, something like that, a long time ago, they were taken to market and everyone looked at them and went, they look like dirty normal pearls. They're not worth very much, half the cost. And the bloke who actually owned these, the Tahitian pearl factory, well, not factory, it'd be a coral reef, it's very canny. So he said, okay, we're going to pull those all back, take them off the market, and we're going to sit tight for a couple of years, wait for people to forget what they were talking about with the cost implications, and then we're going to go and we're going to approach the most exclusive jeweler in New York. And what we're going to do, because he had a good relationship with this jeweler, is we're not going to put these Tahitian black pearls with the white pearls. We're going to put them in the box over here. In this box, we have the diamonds and the sapphires and the emeralds and the expensive stuff. And by contextually anchoring, you know, we're talking about the contrast anchoring, we're putting them there. Talking about simulation anchoring in this point. In that case, these other products were pulling up the price of the black pearls. And they were building up that association of wealth and luxury. And even to this day, you're still going to pay twice as much for black pearls as you would for white pearls from that one business decision, probably like 60 years ago. Okay. Now, reading, because you've got homework. Dan Ariely, brilliant. Very, very readable, very digestible, quite fun. Robert Cialdini, great. Doesn't actually talk about heuristics, but he talks about persuasion techniques. And it's the same thing. It's how can you persuade people to make certain behaviours. When William Poundstone Price is talking about how cost, what are the implications of pricing structure, anchoring, that sort of thing. And then there's the original paper, Kahneman and Tversky. But then I have a final thought. Smoking's bad, kids. Don't do it. But there's another phenomenon, psychological phenomenon called cognitive dissonance. Now, cognitive dissonance is a cognition. It's a belief. It's an action. It's a thing that you do or that you believe in, that you say, that you state. And cognitive dissonance is we're holding two particular cognitive states, and they're the opposite. They're the extreme. So smoking's a perfect example of cognitive dissonance. If you smoke, chances are you probably know it's unhealthy. It's bad for you. It's been pretty much scientifically proven. So that's one cognition. It's bad for me. The other cognition is, hang on, but I'm a smoker. I smoke. Now, that creates dissonance. That creates tension until you justify it to yourself. Cognitive dissonance, it's a lot of lying to yourself goes on in that. So, okay, so you might think to yourself, well, you know what? My gran smokes. She's 78. It can't be that bad for you. Or you could think to yourself, well, all this evidence, it doesn't really count. It's not real. They're not proven it in a laboratory. Yes, they have. But or you might think to yourself, well, you know what? If I stop smoking, I'm going to put on weight, and that's unhealthy. So surely that's worse for me than giving up smoking. You create these internal justifications. You lie to yourself, and you back it up. And this is great when you make a purchase, and you're unsure of that purchase. And I'm sure everyone's done it because I have. Once you've made that purchase, suddenly all your doubts fall away. And suddenly, this is the purchase I made. I stand by my purchase. Yeah, seeing some heads nodding there. We all do that. What are the implications? Now, this is my next study, so I don't have any conclusive results, and I apologise. I can't show you an experiment. But I am going to be testing this, deeply testing this. Lots of different alternatives, lots of variations. But to me, you see, this is great. The Singing Toothbrush by Justin Bieber. This comes off a conversation that I was having with Simon. The implications for that is when you put a social review, when you publish a statement, putting your name behind something, you're creating a cognition. So when you're saying, okay, this Justin Bieber singing toothbrush is 5 stars out of 5 stars, not only by writing that are you creating a cognition, but you're advertising that. So you're advertising, publicly stating. Even Amazon, great, but you're not publicly stating it to people you know. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. When you're stating these cognitions publicly, it's like you're turbocharging that post-purchase rationalization. You're putting your mark on it. You're waving your flag saying, I'm behind this product. So by getting people to publish social media reviews, you're actually more likely to have them keep them as return customers. So everyone thinks social media, it's all about customer acquisition. I theorize that it's going to be a lot about customer retention, and that's not really been dipped into yet. So watch this space and have a think about that, because there's some interesting connotations for that. Okay, that was my final thoughts. I hope you've all enjoyed it. I don't know how long we've been, but does anybody have any questions? Oh, if you want to. Thank you very much.